Alright, hi guys, I'm Austin Philbin.
Hi Austin.
So my presentation is music and cinema. I just want to talk to you guys about the importance of what you hear in a movie and how important it can be in the general intake of it all. But before we get going with all my information, I want to play a game with you guys real quick. So.
What the heck?
Don't peek. I'm gonna play you guys. Yeah, turn it. I'm gonna play 3 short clips for you guys. I want to see if you can recognize which films these are from. It's an ad. Relax, it's YouTube.
Do we share that?
Yeah, just 1 second.
There's gonna be.
All right, here we go.
Harry Potter.
Boom. See, that took about 2 seconds. That's interesting, right? All right, next clip. Might be another ad. 2 seconds again. God, that was quick. Alright, here's a tough one. This is a tough one for all you movie fans. This isn't it.
Wait, give it time.
Go back.
Is it like
Django. Oh, Django. He's in Django.
You've seen Django?
I've seen Django.
Have you met 8th graders in Birmingham?
Well,
Twilight?
Godfather. Boom.
Wow.
Very impressive.
Twilight.
Go back to PowerPoint.
I haven't seen Twilight.
Come on, Twilight. Come on. Alright,
Just hit the freeze button.
yeah, no, it's.
I cried too.
Alright, guys. So now that we've gotten that done with, I thought it was very interesting that you guys could associate with these clips so quickly. The point of that, the reason I'm showing you guys that, is to show that when you watch a movie, you're really not just watching. It's not all visual. A lot happens when you're watching a movie. It's not just what you're seeing on the screen. It's what you're hearing also. And the director chooses to use certain things to conduct these emotions from you guys. And some of these songs I showed you, Star Wars is from 30 years ago. And you guys still associate that literally within 2 seconds. And so that's kind of the whole purpose of this, is that I want to talk about what this music means to viewers like you guys. How do I change slides? Which button?
Oh, no, he'll have to change slides.
Okay.
That's not a controller, unfortunately.
Okay.
you can use it as
Okay, the famous playwright Victor Hugo, he was the writer of Les Mis, if any of you guys are fans. The original play. He once said that music expresses that which cannot be put into words and that which cannot remain silent. Think about this concept for a moment. This implies that the music in the movie has the potential to bring the audience closer to the film than any written dialogue ever could. Whether it is closer to the character, plot, or general tone of the scene, it is often the manipulative and memorable faculty of film music that evokes the audience's emotions. It evoked all your emotions very quickly, and it was able to throw you back to a time when you had seen this movie. And just as film defines itself through the image cast on the screen, the film's music is equally as relevant. Through exploring the history, process, and psychological effects of music in cinema, we will see that cinema without music is not cinema at all. Okay, our story begins on a cold December night in 1895. A group of eager viewers trickle down the stairs of the Grand Café, a popular venue in the center of downtown Paris. In the dimly lit basement, talk of moving pictures and the Lumiere brothers echoed from seat to seat. The Lumiere brothers, Auguste and Louis, had worked in their father's photography shop in France when they were growing up, learning everything there was to know about camera mechanics. After their father retired from the shop, Auguste and Louis were able to combine their love for imagery, with the rapidly evolving inventions of moving images on slides, such as Thomas Edison's kinetoscope. And on that snowy night in Paris, they were unveiling for the first time their creation, something that would change the concept of entertainment forever. The Lumiere brothers decided that the Grand Café was the perfect place to do it. By day, the cafe served food and coffee to tourists and locals alike. But by night, the basement of the cafe hosted numerous live performances, fueling the artistic nightlife of 19th century Paris. And the Lumiere brothers had it packed full. Here they intended to show 10 short films, the first projected moving pictures of all time. As the crowd came to complete silence for the introduction of the films, something happened, something that would change film forever. Before the film had started, as historians say, an unknown man in the audience stood up and moved to a piano in the back of the room. As the film began, the man began to play alongside the projections. This defined the movie-going experience for every generation to follow. Ever since the birth of a moving picture, there has been music to accompany it. The Lumiere brothers did not create film single-handedly. Without the nameless man behind the piano, this would have simply been a moving picture. But with music, it was the first true cinematic experience. As the world advances technologically, so does the world of film. As time goes on, the placement of music in cinema takes a roller coaster ride, yet never diminishes in value. However, we cannot fully understand the pivotal nature of film music until we take a glimpse into the evolution of film technology and its place in international society. After its birth in France, movie madness spread throughout the United States, climbing to the height of its popularity by the 1910s and 20s. Picture houses could be found in every major city, bringing a booming film economy to every social hub in the country. In these picture houses, live orchestra pits provided the music for each silent film shown. As film gained popularity, so did the music that accompanied it. According to Martin Marks, author of Music in the Silent Film, the demand for good music was such that it is now as much rivalry between exhibitors to brag of their good orchestras as it was bragging of the quality of their pictures. With competition in the showcasing orchestras, music took an upper hand to crowd attraction. The reliance on a good orchestra was so vital in silent films, according to Martin, that it was actually playing the biggest role in successful picture houses. In an effort to make these picture houses even more commonplace in America, filmmakers and exhibitors looked for ways to move the music in film from live music in the pits to recorded sound. However, the quality was lacking and not preferential next to a chamber ensemble. By 1927, one film took a step that would forever change cinema. The Jazz Singer was the first feature-length film to include synchronized dialogue. This terminated the innovative concept of a silent film and also officially switched film music to recorded music only. Now, instead of the audience's emotions being directed by subtitles and a constant flow of live music, the film's emotional cues were more reliant on dialogue, changing the role of music. From the 1930s onward, music in film had taken on a new meaning. Music was now used alongside dialogue, whereas before it served as the tone in the actors' unheard voices. However, the underlying emotional cues lied so much deeper than in the dialogue of a film. A dependence on film music survived. In decades to come, the concept of film music never stopped evolving. By the 1980s, the concept of soundtracks versus traditional scripted scores were coming into fashion. Movies such as Ferris Bueller's Day Off and The Breakfast Club were redefining film music. These films were using songs that were prevalent in pop culture to relate to the audience while at the same time capturing the essence of the youthful characters and their settings. This gave way to a split in film music. Films were now recognized as films with a score, like Godfather and Star Wars, and films with a soundtrack, like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Breakfast Club. And in many cases, films with both. These are films that would combine both a written score with an orchestra and also with popular music from the time period. One of the most influential directors to use this soundtrack method to rope the audience into the time period and setting of the film was Martin Scorsese. Anyone know Martin Scorsese? Very popular director, directed films like Goodfellas. Mean Streets is the film we're talking about. This was his first. He's basically the king of gangster movies, old school gangster movies. In one of his earliest films, Mean Streets, music played a pivotal role. Scorsese says that in Mean Streets, the score is music I heard on the streets where I lived, in the neighborhood. You often have one song coming from a window, opera, rock and roll, Frank Sinatra, etc. Using a realistic approach to the music in the film, he applies pieces of his own life to build the character's environment. Scorsese also uses popular musicians of the time, like the Rolling Stones and Bob Dylan, as a form of relativity to the audience. Now that we've seen how an audience's collective emotions towards a film or film scene can be manipulated by music, the science of the human brain explains just why film music is so gripping. According to Psychology Today, a professional forum for psychological studies, the effects music have on the brain are actually visible when looking at the brain. According to psychologist Nancy Dess, there are cells in the right hemisphere of the brain that react more to music than to dialogue. This is where the argument of music over dialogue comes into play. There are literally parts of the brain that make more sense of music than it does dialogue, prioritizing musical emotional cues at a higher register than spoken words. The priority that music signals explains why directors find working with music in their films so essential. The indications in film are not only associated to emotional cues, but in some ways powerful enough to indicate cues for human survival. Studies have shown that neurons learn to prioritize some sounds over others. When a tone becomes important because it signals food, for instance, the cell's response to that tone increases. These neurons in the brain are shaped through experience, conducting even the most instinctual thoughts when listening to music. Here's an example. I want you to listen to one of these clips carefully. One clip strips the famous scene of its score, and the second half of the clip puts the music back onto the video. Pay very close attention to the intensity of the scene and your reaction when you're watching these two clips. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to show you guys one clip. So one half of the video is going to be completely stripped of the music that was originally in the film. And then the second clip, they're going to put the music back on it. And I want you guys to pay attention to what you're feeling, what the director is making you feel, the emotions that it's evoking from you. Played over it again. Pay attention to the music and what makes you feel.
Your turn, Clint. Movement, where are you?
On the board, Alex. To your right.
Hurry up, he's coming straight for us. Don't screw it up now. Don't wait for me. Come on, hurry up, down! Kill it, quick! Kill it! Now! Shoot! Time! What were you doing? You know I'm going to be shot right in the head!
Okay, so I'm going to get some feedback from you guys now. Was there any difference you felt between the two clips?
Yeah.
Well, someone raise your hands and talk to me about it.
I noticed that as the intensity and dialogue kind of built up and like people started shouting and like the shark was getting closer, like the music kind of got more intense and that kind of, I don't know if this makes any sense, but it kind of like, it was almost like an adrenaline shot because like it really like
that makes a lot of sense.
That you kind of
it pulled you into the movie.
When
yeah.
The shark got
right.
closer.
Okay.
The music contributed to the intensity of it.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? I think that just about covers it. When you notice the music when the music is not in the film, really it's just a series of events. You guys are sitting here just like audience members watching things happen on the screen. But when we put the music back over it, you're part of the movie. And the fear that's being evoked in the people that are in the movie, the characters, is also, it's with you. You start feeling for the characters. And it's just amazing to me that something as simple as music and something as simple as addition to film that music can be, it can mean so much to a very vital scene in the movie. Okay, the process involved in composing and using film music, however, is a very long and difficult process that involves nearly every part of the film production cast. The three most important roles when it comes to creating and applying film music comes from the writer, the composer, and the director. The starting mark is cue sheets. The concept of cue sheets has stayed relatively the same throughout the history of cinema. The music writer for the film takes the responsibility of writing these cue sheets alongside the film. So they watch the film and they write the music to which they think would be music that would best bring out the emotions in that scene. In most cases, they watch the film and write music according to the mood of the scene. The next step is the actual music production, brought to us by the conductor. This is when a cue sheet turns into a score. So when they actually can hear these ideas, that when they create in the studio, they bring it to a live orchestra, or however the sound they want, they bring it to the actual musicians to lay down the music. The final application of each score to each scene is put in the hands of the film's director. This gives them the responsibility to choose which mood and emotion they are looking to draw from their audience. Now take a moment to reflect. Is it the speedy fin eerily sneaking up behind the unsuspecting characters that makes Jaws terrifying? Or is it the orchestra, building with two sharp notes, increasing in speed and volume, crawling to a frightening level of momentum? According to John Williams, music is the success of horror. Here, Spielberg, Williams, and Jaws have the audience completely glued to the screen. The audience, completely fear-stricken, hopes for the tune to explode and for the shark to appear. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. Either way, the music in this film has brought you closer to the film than any written dialogue or angle of the camera ever could have. So, next slide. In conclusion, I'd just like to say that there are certain aspects of film that will always be necessary. And the most arguable one is easily the visual aspect, because that's been the one that's been around since the era of since the silent film era. You always need something on the screen to stimulate the audience. However, without music, film would not be film. Ever since the invention of projected image, there has been music to accompany it, and it has always played a vital role in creating an audience that is involved in the movie-going experience. That's it, guys.
Question?
Yeah, questions?
No question on it.
Questions?
All right.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.